Today we are diving into a topic that is near and dear to me, which is entrepreneurial ADD. So you know what that feels like, right? Where you're trying to focus on something. I need to get this project done. And all of a sudden you're checking social media and then Twitter and then text and then phone call and then this and that and then lunch and then someone's coming by and there's a squirrel outside and like all the things, right? It's hard to focus sometimes. And so this video is gonna be about all the things that I do personally to help me to be able to get focused so I can get projects done. If you don't understand how to function, how to work with ADD, it can be really hard, but if you understand it, ADD is actually a superpower. It reminds me of the X-Men, right? The X-Men are these amazing people, like some of them can fly, some can walk through walls. It's like the greatest superpower of all time. But then in the movie, they're always trying to like get rid of their superpowers and making them like everybody else. What you don't understand is that entrepreneurial ADD is a superpower. It's what makes you great. And if you understand how to harness it, you can literally use that as a superpower to change your life and the lives of the people you've been called to serve. So let's jump right into exactly the 5 things I do to help me with my entrepreneurial ADD. The first focus hack that I use is a very simple one. It's setting a deadline. Okay, this is important because for those of us with entrepreneurial ADD, like if we're not careful, we get in this motion where we're just spinning around in circles, right? To be successful as an entrepreneur with ADD, you have to have something you're moving towards, okay? It's all about momentum, okay? We're in a weird spot where we don't normally feel like happy and sad like most people. We either feel like we're in momentum or out of momentum. And you can't have momentum unless you have a deadline, something you're working towards, okay? So first thing we do is we set a deadline. And this is important because if we don't have that deadline, we have this thing in our brain where we're like, oh, we'll do it tomorrow. I call this the mañana principle. Like, oh, mañana, we'll do it mañana, right? But the problem with mañana is when you get to tomorrow never comes because now it's tomorrow again and we keep pushing this thing.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it!
We have to set a very firm deadline and then not let it shift. I usually put it on a calendar. I let my staff, my teammates know like this is when this is going live. That forces me to say I have to get this done because otherwise I'm gonna be on stage or doing a webinar or going on Facebook Live or something without something to show for it, right? So by creating that deadline and calling my shot, it forces me to actually get things done. Now, focus hack number 2 is after you've set your deadline, now we have to reverse engineer all the things you need to do to actually hit that deadline. Now, if we don't do this, the problem with our brains, we'll say, okay, this is the deadline, and we'll wait till like literally like the last possible hour, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're stressed out trying to get things done. So what I do is I start reverse engineering all of the milestones I gotta hit to be successful. And then each of those milestones I attach a deadline to. That means in 3 days from now, this has to be done. In 5 days after that, this has gotta be done. I set what I call a plateau or a plomo deadline. Now, I first heard this concept from one of the greatest copywriters who's ever lived on this planet. His name's Gary Halbert. And he said, what I do is I set plateau or plomo deadlines on every single thing I'm doing. And he explained this principle, and I'm sure it's not politically correct, but it's his explanation, not mine. Plateau or plomo stands for lead or gold, right? The bullet or the bribe. So what he explained said that in some countries, when there's somebody that wants to get a law passed, right? Let's say someone from a drug cartel or something, they want to get something done. They break into the politician's house and they come up to him and say, okay, you got 2 options. You can change this law and you get gold, the bribe, or you don't and you get lead. So when those are your options, plateau or plomo, somehow you figure out how to get the thing done, right? He said you have to trick your mind to be the same thing. So you set this deadline that in your mind, like if I get this, I'm gonna take this bribe and it's gonna be this thing I can celebrate. If not, like I'm gonna die. And I know that's kind of morbid, but I literally trick my mind to believe that. If I know this is due in 3 days now, I'm gonna be till midnight that night getting it done because I do not want to miss it. Because in my mind, I'm like, this is lead or gold. Like I have to get this done or else nothing else matters. All right, focus hack number 3. And this one's gonna be probably opposite of what most people will think and what most people have ever told you, okay? Number 3 is I'm gonna block out focus time, but I'm not gonna try to create a distraction-free zone. A couple years ago, I had a chance to sit down and have lunch with one of the top ADD doctors on the planet. And he told me something really fascinating. He said that if you are a student or if you have a son or a daughter who's struggling with ADD and they're at school trying to pay attention to teachers, if you give them like a pencil or a fidget spinner, something to do, and they're distracted by doing that, it's easier for them to pay attention to the teacher versus no distractions trying to sit there and listen. It's the reason why all of us struggle in school is because of no distractions. When you have ADD, you actually need multiple distractions to be focused. So what I do personally, if I'm gonna be writing, I need to get something done, what I do is I go in my office and I have a standing desk. So I raise my standing desk and then I have a walking treadmill. So I put the treadmill desk underneath and I start walking, okay? So now I'm walking and I'm writing. Next thing I do is I put something on my headphones. So I put headphones on and I listen to brain.fm. This gives me these binaural beats to help my mind to focus. But now I'm doing like 3 or 4 things. I'm walking, I'm listening, I'm typing, and because I'm doing 3 or 4 things, it distracts me to the point where I can actually be focused. This is what most people with ADD don't understand. I'm gonna give a bunch of distractions to try to short circuit everything else so I can focus on the one thing I actually have to do to get done. Focus hack number 4 is after you have got the deadline, you reverse engineer, you were doing cool stuff to make sure you get the project done. Now what I would recommend doing is actually documenting the journey publicly. This lets other people see that you're being accountable to what you're doing, and you're more likely to do it knowing that you're going to disappoint other people if you're not doing it, okay? So for example, about 2 years ago, I signed a contract with Hay House to do my next book, and I spent 2 years not talking about it, just trying to write it. I'm trying to write it. 2.5 years later, the book still wasn't done. I decided I wasn't happy with it, so I literally deleted the entire book. And I said, look, if I'm gonna do this, I need to publicly show people what I'm doing, take them on the journey with me. And so on Instagram, we started documenting every single day, day by day, what I'm doing to write the book. What this did is, first off, it gave me something fun to look forward to every single day, right? Number 2, it gave me something like where I was sharing the journey with other people, which gave an energy and excitement to it, and it also held me accountable to actually getting the things done. Now, the progress on this book is going so much faster in just like literally the last 2 weeks than the last 2.5 years prior. So focus hack number 4 is to document the journey publicly to hold yourself accountable. All right, and our last focus hack is that every single milestone along the way, you need to celebrate the journey, right? I talked about how we have letter goal, the bribe or the bullet, right? This is the bribe, this is the goal. Every single time along the journey that something happens, that you succeed, that you get done, you can't just be like, oh, I got it done. Because if you do that, your brain's gonna be like, man, I keep hitting these milestones and nothing cool is happening.
All that work and what did it get me? Why did I do it?
Right, I told you earlier that people with ADD, that we don't feel happy or feel sad, we feel like we're in momentum or we're not in momentum. So if we're not celebrating these things, if we're not giving ourselves the gold or the bribe along the way, then our brain's not gonna recognize momentum, and it's gonna be easy for us to get distracted, to feel out of momentum, which makes us feel unhappy, depression, all those kind of things from not having rewards along the way. A lot of times for me, I'll celebrate something by coming home and we have ice cream that night, or maybe I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take a day off, or I'm gonna do something crazy, but it's picking something little along the way every time you hit a milestone to celebrate, and by doing that, it keeps you moving towards the next milestone.
Massages.
Treat yourself.
Mimosas.
Treat yourself.
Fine leather goods.
Treat yourself.
All right, so those are my hacks. That's how I get so much stuff done. I'm curious for you, what are the hacks and things you kind of learn along the way? I would love any new ideas, any new updates, anything you guys have that I can use and apply to my process as well. Please let me know in comments down below. If you don't have one yet, which one are you most excited to try? I bet most of you guys is number 3. I want to see you all listening and doing treadmill when you're writing your next project. And if you enjoyed this video, I got another really cool video on the channel called How to Get Anything You Want. I think if you like this one, you are going to love that one. So check out that video as well.